Welcome to Vortex Garage. On today's video, we're going to show you how to make new transmission cooler lines for your Jaguar XJS on the cheap. Let's get to it. All right, so what we've got here is our older lines and the older rubber piece here. And what we're going to do is we're going to be replacing this inner piece. Now, as you can see, this is a crimped hydraulic line. It's very similar to an AC line where it has the O-ring connector here and this piece that screws on. Now, if you've got a shop nearby that can make these hoses for you, well, that is certainly an option, but they may charge you a fair bit. They may even charge you for new ends, etc. You can actually do these by yourself at home and make one just like we've made here. We're going to show you the different options to do it, and we're going to go ahead and redo this one. Before we get started today, it's important to point out, yes, we're taking this original high pressure hose and turning into this homemade one. And that's going to work fine because in this application with the GM 400 transmission that's in there, the transmission cooler pressure is only about 30 psi that it's going to see. So we should be fine using these high pressure fuel clamps and this hose. But we're going to show you what we're using and the options that you have. Let's hop back to the table before we get making the new one. All right, let's take a look really quick at the hose that we've already built and some of the parts that you're going to need to build this. So first off, you have their hose. Simple enough, you're going to want ATF rated hose at 3/8 inner diameter. I'm using this kit from Hayden, and actually the hose is marked as Gates hose, so it's quality stuff. And specifically, this is designed for transmission oil coolers. Hayden 106, we'll post links to everything. Next up, you're going to need the O-rings that go on the end. We've already popped this one off. Let me zoom in and we'll talk O-rings for a second. Okay, so the O-rings slip on right there. And well, let's take a look at what we got. So here is the original O-ring. So here is the original O-ring that came off it. And what I found is an old air conditioning O-ring kit. I had everything I needed. Got these nice green O-rings that seem to match. So I wanted to tell you what they are, so I got out my kit here, my assortment, and I found it is a number 11. But this is nitrile rubber. Don't really want to use that. But if we take a look here, if I pop this open, this is the number 11 right here. The specs on that, it's an inner diameter of 5/16, outer of 7/16, and it has a section length of 1/16. Now, if you're wondering, hey, that doesn't add up, isn't that 2/16? Well, that's because you have two sections on either side. But let's go ahead and zoom back in here. If I lay this carefully over top, pretty darn close. Now, obviously I don't have it sitting on it perfectly, but as you can tell, that O-ring's pretty close. So we're a number 11. Now you have some options at your local store, at your local Harbor Freight. You can get these Viton ones. They have a little harder durometer than these AC O-rings that I found. So I'm going to use the AC ones. You also have these HNBRs, which are good as well. And let's see, high tensile strength, most automotive and refrigerant applications. This is probably honestly what these are. These are probably HNBR. So I'd say I'd go with these, but Viton always works as well. I think the flexibility is going to be what you kind of want on these as well. So, but it looks like I have these number 11s right out of this AC kit, and that's what we're going to use. All right, let's go back to our hose here and let's talk clamps. That's the other thing that you're going to need. We are using some high pressure clamps here. These are the screw-on type. You can buy those in a kit, but specifically the ones we're using are 15 to 17 millimeter. They seem like a perfect fit for this Hayden hose. These clamps are good for, as they say, up to about 50, 60 psi, something like that. And like I said, we're only going to see about 30 maximum out of this, so we should be just fine using these. The only downside I could see is that you do have this piece that pops out here, but one item you can do, take a vacuum cap from a vacuum cap kit, slide it on there, and you got nice protection over that. It's not going to cut or damage anything. The only other downside I can see is that the profile of this, it does add some height. You might need to turn the clamp when you're putting it on the car, get it to a nice comfortable spot depending on how these bolt up on the vehicle. So we might do some adjustment on the car. Another option you can do, and I honestly consider doing this, you could go ahead and get a set of something like this. I think I have a nicer set somewhere. These seem fine. They seem a little thin. And getting one that matched up to the correct size seemed a little bit tight. But what these do, these are crimp clamps. and you use a tool for those that I had just a second ago. Yep, so you use this tool, put it in here, and then of course when it's on the hose, you crimp this down, and it ends up making a nice little setup. I'll go ahead and use one on one of these smaller ones here, so you can kind of see how it works. Just like that. And the only thing is, like, these aren't the best quality, and maybe this tool's not that great either, so they kind of end up mushrooming it out a little bit. But you do these right, they actually look really, really good. And a quality set of these would really work. I mean, that's really what you see used on high pressure power steering lines, so it's certainly going to hold, close the drawer there. These are certainly going to hold the pressure if you get a good set. But as you can see, we're going to go with the screw-on clamps, and this one is good to go. So let's now show you how to get to this point. Now the first question you're going to have, pretty good question, is, well, how do you get this old rubber hose off? So what we have on these is a compression fitting here. Now there's an outer core and an inner core on this. Let me zoom in. Okay, and we can show you a picture of a cross section of what these look like, but essentially what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cut. I think I was having focus issues. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to come in here and we're going to cut the circumference about 2-3 millimeters in. And then we might even do a slice this way. But once we free up this outer sleeve, we should be able to actually pull the hose off. Now underneath the rubber hose is a core that is almost, it's a bit of a barbed fitting. It's not a super aggressive barb, but it's what we're going to use to attach to. So we're going to have to use something to cut this. Now you can use a hacksaw and go all the way around, or we'll show you we're going to use a electric cutoff wheel tool, and we're going to carefully cut around there. We're going to do that for both of these and extract these fittings, and then we can reuse them. Now again, the biggest thing is you got to be careful not to cut that inner core or damage it, and just watch as you're going and go slow. The other thing is, once we're done with that, we're just going to file this smooth, and then we should be able to push on our new hose. And you'll see I did a little bit of a trick here. I went ahead and put on some heat shrink just to make it look super nice. So you don't see the, because I used an electric tool, it wasn't perfect looking. So the little bit of heat shrink there just sort of cleans up the end a little bit. That's purely optional if you choose to use it. Again, I'm using this marine stuff here from Harbor Freight. The 3/4 diameter heat shrink tubing worked really well. It's the stuff with the glue in it, so it'll hold on there nice. And it's also high temp. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cut one of these. Now, when we do the cut, obviously you're going to want to have some eye protection. And you might want to wear some gloves. Let me find some gloves. I'm going to go all Makita today. All right, we'll get someone flipping out over that probably. All right, so you're going to want to do your protection when you're cutting. Okay, but before we do that, let's go ahead and sort of take a look here. You can kind of see on this one where we're at. So let me just grab something really, really quick. All right, I said 2 or 3. I'm not thinking in millimeters, am I? So that's more like 5 millimeters. That's like 5 millimeters is probably what you're going to want to do. So we're going to want to cut 5 millimeters in. Now there's a couple things you can do. You can just take a Sharpie. If you've got really thin tape, you can put a little tape ring around it, or you can mark it with a Sharpie as well. And the other thing you can kind of do is look, there's some little numbers on here. If we just sort of go right about there. Because you can always take material away. You can't put material back. So if you want, go a little further out. Get used to it. What I did on this one, and I'd recommend, is do an exploratory cut. The other thing you're going to see is this outer ring's thicker than you're probably going to expect. That's actually a couple millimeters thick. Let me zoom in and show you that. Okay, so that's actually a little thicker than you might expect. For our cutoff tool, we're going to use this handy dandy tool. This is the Makita XCM01, and it is going to work magic on this. It's got a smaller cutoff wheel. You could use a Dremel, you could use a hacksaw. I guess you could use a big angle grinder, but I'd want to use something a little less aggressive. All right, so let's give one a try and do my best to film this. All right, so the key again is as you're cutting, you're going to want to stop. You're going to want to make your scribe line with the cutting wheel all the way across. And then you're going to want to just get down. When you don't see metal in the cut, you're going to see that little black of the hose. When you see that, that's it. Stop. Move on to the next one. Okay, so we've kind of got a scribe line all the way across. Now we can work on our cut. Okay, let me see if I can zoom in and show you something here. You see the little black dots in there? That's where we made it through the metal. See right there in the center, in between the shiny there. We just got through the metal into the hose underneath. So if you're really careful with your cutting, you can kind of dial it in and just get as close as you can to that. We're going to minimize how much we actually cut into the hose, and that's going to prevent us from damaging that barb underneath. All right, so I think we've got it cut all the way around. Now, what I had done on the prior one was go ahead and cut a relief this way, but I think we can just pull it right off. Yeah, you don't even have to cut that relief. So all you got to do is the circumference around. As you can see here, we did a pretty good job of getting our cut about where we wanted it to be. So let's go ahead and zoom in. Try to show you what we're working with here. As you can see here, we have a little bit of room that we could have gone. So all we're going to want to do now is either with the tool that we were just using, a hand file or some other tool, we're going to try to shave that down to the bottom out of that barb there. So a little bit of trimming and cutting, and then we're going to make that look nice. Now, if you decide to use a tool like this, you're going to want to be careful that you don't, as you're cleaning this up, you're not really supposed to use the sides of these things, but you can kind of tell somebody's been doing that. It wasn't me. But if you do that, you got to be careful you don't accidentally just shove it into that barb and cut a notch into it and weaken it or whatever. So you're just going to want to go and take care of that. You could definitely do it on a bench grinder, have that off camera. We're just going to come in and clean that up. We'll show you what it looks like. So it's not perfect, but it's not bad. The other thing I like to do is we'll come along and do a little chamfer. All right, so now we've got our little edge and chamfer on it. So what we're going to do, we'll come in with a hand file and just sort of clean it up a little bit, get it nice, as straight as possible. Now, you could spend a lot of time on this, make it perfect, but we've got plenty of nice barb here. Our clamp's going to go up here. We're going to put that heat shrink on it to hide it. No one's going to know what's under here. I mean, you'll know, I'll know, Pepperidge Farm will know, but no one else. And we got other things to do. We got other things to do, right? We got other projects waiting. Heck, we've been working on this darn thing too long anyway. I'm going to call that good enough. So we have now made our barbed fitting. Of course, now we got to do it again. So this one is the dirty side. So we're going to want to do the same. Let's get our scribe line, go ahead and cut it, and then we'll clean it up. All right, I think we got it. Did we get it? Yep, we did. There we go. All right, we'll clean this one up, then we're ready to go. All right, we got our second one, and it's probably the worst one I've done because I'm rushing now and I just want to get this done. So let's put these aside, let them cool a bit. Let's go ahead and get our hose cut. So the nice thing about the way we do this, we didn't really lose any length of hose. So we've got a perfect template for how long we need this to be. That's just a bit toasty. Okay, we'll just walk this along this one. Get it to right there. Is that on camera? Now it is. Uh-oh. Okay, and we'll mark it right there. Come back in and make sure we're still happy with our measurement. Yep. Okay, so there's our mark. We're going to cut it with the hose cutters. One thing I would recommend is get yourself something to back that up to. Get this as straight as possible when you make the cut. Okay, nice 90-degree cut. Sort of. Not bad. Right. And then we are all set. We're going to go with this one next. This one's cooled off. Slide on our hose clamp. Got a couple pieces of heat shrink. Go with the thicker stuff because that one we'll use on the other one. I did such a bad job cutting it. It's not that bad. It'll work. All right, so let's go ahead and just push this on. That ain't too bad. We'll get our heat shrink up here. Okay, we don't want to melt our hose either. There we go. And we'll get this on. Thereabouts. These clamps use like a 7mm. Nice and snug. You can twist it, make sure it's tight. Here's one of our vacuum cap assortments. Grab 2, we'll do 3, so we can do our other one, make them the same way. And put our little cap on here. Look at that. All right, now we got the other end to do. There we go. Put one of these on it. Like I said, I might still move these on the car. We're not going to show that on the video. You should know how to install this. You don't need to show every little thing. But I'll go ahead and put this here. All right, we're looking good. Now the last thing we're going to do, you could do this, probably best to do this with ATF. But I've got some WD-40 handy. Lube up our O-rings. WD-40 shouldn't damage them. And then let's go ahead and put these on our ends. Just like that. Okay, now for the cost of a couple O-rings, a few hose clamps, and a little section of hose, we have replaced the old aged rubber on these parts and made our own connectors for our transmission. All right, hopefully you found this helpful as we made these new lines for our XJS over here. We're now ready to get these bolted up and have our transmission cooler back in with new non-dry rotted rubber lines and no leaks. So, hope you enjoyed this. See more of this and other stuff on Vortex Garage. We will be doing a quick video kind of walking you through some of the things we've been working on. Haven't done a lot of video updates recently. Also, not videoing the work on this car, but we'll do a little video show you what we have put in, what we're doing on the cooling system refresh. But we did want to do a quick video and just show you how to do these transmission lines. So we'll see you back here for more on Vortex Garage.